Yeah, well, I'm going to do that again today. Thank you. But mostly what I've been particularly accurate about was interest rates. I used to take a survey, who here thinks interest rates will go up, down, or stay the same? All realtors 10 years ago, 8 years ago, 6 years ago, 5 years ago were saying they'd go up, up, up. I kept saying they're not, they're going down. I'd like some applause on that someday, but not today. Um, and I think that that's been the case. Interest rates and mortgage rates have stayed remarkably low, probably lower than anybody would have guessed, but we were guessing and accurately. So I hope I have a little bit of street cred with you in that regard. I also think that this coming year, the year 2020, could be and should be a terrific year for you. And I'm going to talk about why I think so. And I do think this could be possibly the best year you'll have over the next 2 or 3 years. So I think you need to get to it. Neil stole my thunder a little bit by talking about Kobe's work ethic, but I wanted to hearken to that. I mean, they say this guy worked hard. I fully and categorically buy into that. Roger Staubach, who is a Hall of Fame NFL Football League quarterback, and in my judgment, perhaps the best college quarterback ever. He was a Heisman Trophy winner at the Naval Academy when the military academies were football powerhouses, which they're not now, but they were then. And Staubach said he always goes the extra mile, and on that extra mile, there's no one else on the track but him. Going that extra mile can be lonely. You're the only one on the track, but those guys do best. You got to work hard. So if you work hard, I think that this should be a very terrific year. Part of my thesis with real estate people is I think that most of you are delightful people. You have to be kind of people if you're in real estate, I think, or in any kind of sales. But I think that most of you are, I don't mean you specifically, you know, it's all your other real estate agents, are not very good salespeople. I think you're good showers. You walk through a house and you say, that's a bedroom and that's a bathroom. Honest to God, they know that. They really do. They know what these rooms are. They understand indoor plumbing and all that. You have to sell the investment merits. This is, for many people, the biggest investment decision they're going to make. And I think that you're all nice and wonderful and showy, but you're not selling. So I think you have to focus on your ability to negotiate prices between buyers and sellers that are fair to both parties, not delusional. When you have too many buyers, the sellers get to be delusional at what price they can get. When you have too many sellers, the buyers get delusional and how low the prices can get. So your job is to bridge that gap. Does that make sense to you? Right now, who's the delusional? What's the delusional side, the buyer or the seller? You think the buyer is delusional in what sense? They think they get a cheaper price. Yeah. And so the seller thinks they're wrong. I think the buyer is right. The buyer will get a cheaper price if they're really, really patient. So it's your job to get inventory. And inventory is tough to come by. If you had inventory, you could sell every place going, I presume, right? Inventory is tough to come by. Why is that? I think one of the reasons that gets overlooked is the United States is growing old. We have a lot of baby boomers who are elderly now. They don't want to sell, particularly in a place like California, because they will have substantial capital gains tax. And I don't think that's something you can overlook when you're talking about the investment merit, in this case, of the seller. I think capital gains taxes keeps them in there in many instances. Does anybody encounter any resistance along those lines? Do you? I think you have to do a little bit of arithmetic. The capital gains tax, if you, I'm going to use a round number. I know most people don't have $1 million capital gain, but let me just use a round number, okay? Because you can get anywhere from 250 to 500,000 tax-free. You know that. Okay. But let's just say you have a $1 million capital gain. I'm just using a round number. You're going to pay out maybe $200,000 of that. I'm here to tell you, let's use $100,000 capital gain. That's more realistic. You're going to pay out 20 grand of that. Now, if you didn't pay that out, how much could that 20 grand earn for you if you put it in a bank or a bond or something like that? Frankly, not a hell of a lot. I mean, maybe $500 a year if they're lucky, if you really have a high rate. You're not talking about that much that traps them into a house, that traps and locks up a lot of money that older people frequently would like to have access to so they can do the things in retirement that they wish to do, right? Help the grandkids, help school, travel, whatever the case may be. So I think a lot of times you can overcome this with the arithmetic. And if you ever want to, you can always call my office. We'll help you with the arithmetic if you get a case. But I think don't just talk about it. I watch these home seller shows on TV. What is it, HGTV, I think it is? My wife likes that show. So I watch them sometimes. And I find it really amusing. You know, they go back and forth with, well, it's $25,000 more, and they sort of stand their ground. It's not $25,000 more. At today's interest rates of 3.5%, it's $80 a month more. I mean, you can barely go to McDonald's with a family of 4 and get a meal for $80, I think, right? So, I mean, I think sometimes if you put a pencil and paper to the arithmetic, it will help you enormously. Most people are really not very good with arithmetic, but I think you should always have a calculator with you to be able to do some of that. So focus on negotiating prices between buyers and sellers. Why are rates and inflation so low, and why have I been very accurate on that subject? Who here does think interest rates will increase? I don't. I've already spilled the beans. But who thinks before, I don't want to intimidate you, but who would have thought 10 minutes ago that interest rates were likely to go up over the next 2-3 years? One who's courageous enough to answer truthfully. Any others? Any others? No? Why? Wrong. The only way it can go is go up. Germany, if you put money in a bank, you have to pay them. Negative interest. Greece, if you put money in a bank, you have to pay them. Italy, if you put money in a bank, you have to pay them. The United States in the 1890s, if you put money in a bank, you paid them for safekeeping. So you can have negative interest rates, believe it or not. It's almost like Alice in Wonderland, where everything's turned upside down. But interest rates can go lower. They can go lower. Will they go lower? Probably not much lower. Probably not much lower. Maybe not at all. But one of the reasons interest rates have been so low and stagnant, you know, the Fed has tried to raise rates and they have to retreat. They can't do it. Why is that? America is old. Old people don't buy stuff. They have stuff. They're not buying stuff. They have stuff. So they are actually trying to downsize. I gave a talk to a group of people about 3 or so weeks ago, and it seemed to strike a chord with some of the people in the audience. But the fact of the matter is, if you have silverware, if you have china, if you have furniture, the market is flooded with baby boomers trying to get rid of it. There's no market for any of that stuff. Your kids don't want it. They eat off paper plates. What do they know? Nobody else does either. I mean, there's just so much stuff out there that there's no market for it. You'll get peanuts because the baby boomers are trying to downsize. And they're trying to downsize in their real estate a lot of the time too. But the capital gains is holding them back. So you need to know the arithmetic on that. You need to really spend time, maybe even in groups, and brainstorm how to deal with that math. I think that's very, very important. But we don't have, you have almost no unemployment. We have robust corporate profits, still can't get inflation. You know, the economic theory is when unemployment is really low, by definition, inflation will go up. It's not the case because old people don't buy stuff. They want to sell stuff. Does that make sense to you? So until the baby boomers pass, and that's another 10, 15 years, you're not going to have rampant inflation, it wouldn't seem. So, wrong. Okay. The other thing about it is old people are saying, if I sell my house, what can I do with the money to get an income with the excess money? Because I got to buy another place. So you get a double whammy here. You can get one sold, one bought. But what can I do with the money? Because if they put it in the bank, they're not going to get it. I mean, zero, right? Next to zero. Come see us and I'll talk about that a little bit. But there are places where you can get a robust income still. Biggest concern, according to surveys in the Wall Street Journal, for older people is running out of money. That is their biggest single concern. So a lot of times they're afraid if I sell the house and I try and re-employ some of the profits, I may run out of money, may not be enough. So that's also another mathematical equation that's worth going into. I think in the world of real estate, the high-end market is done. Now, I don't know, what is your average price point around here? How much? 6 or 7-ish in there? Okay. I think that's your sweet spot, is that average. Once you start getting into the high-end properties, you know, the rich bought 4, 5, 6 years ago. They were able to come in early. They're kind of done. And where you see that is in places like New York and Chicago, and here too. The high-end properties are stagnating and even going down in value. You're in a sweet market. I think of this area as kind of the middle market. Is that a fair statement, Neil? Okay. So I think you're in a sweet market. People want to downsize. They want a condo. They want a townhouse. I would really devote some of my attention to some of those smaller properties. The elderly have an empty nest. The young have fewer children. So smaller is likely where the future is. And you can see that in downtown LA. I mean, the condos and so on that's just sprung up there like you wouldn't have imagined 10 years ago. I mean, it's quite remarkable. And they're selling as far as I know. In terms of where is the real estate market, first of all, you're in a capital intense industry. You have to have plenty of money available for borrowing, yes? Okay. The last crash was simply because the banks closed. The banks destroyed themselves. When the banks close, you can't get money. If you can't get money, real estate's over. The previous crash to that was in the early 90s. The savings and loan industry closed. When the savings and loan industry closed, you couldn't get money. When you can't get money, real estate collapses. Right now, the banks are healthy. Your business is healthy. You should have a very, very good year if you work it, if you don't let people talk you out of it. And I love whenever you read in the paper all the time that properties become unaffordable. You know, I'm not one of these about fake news and stuff, but really, that just seems ridiculous to me when you have a line of people in multiple offers. If you have multiple offers, how, pray tell, is it unaffordable, right? I mean, I understand not every single person can afford it, but somebody can. You've got multiple offers. So the press is telling you it's unaffordable, and the line outside your door is telling you otherwise. So what is the old adage of don't believe what you see, believe some rumor, whatever that clever ad is. I wanted to put up a chart. Can we put that chart up? And Neil alluded to this, but I brought it with me today. You see this blue line, if you turn around and look at the screen, the blue line is 1 year of the Dow Jones Industrial Average. And how much is it up? I can't read that far away. It's in the blue. 16.54. Okay, a year ago on this date, it's up 16.5%. You see the red line? You know what that red line is? Take a guess. That's real estate activity. It's called XHB. It is the Home Builders Index, which is follow the money. Remember in the last impeachment stuff we had with Nixon, the Deep Throat said, follow the money will lead you there. Wall Street is the money. The money is going into homes. What is that number on the end of the red? Okay, it's essentially twice what the Dow is, and the Dow had a great year. The real estate business is very robust, and the projections, according to the smart money, is it will remain so for quite a while. That's a very good thing to show people who are on the buy side of things. And it's also a good thing to show people to get an inventory. Here's why. Um, in terms of inventory, let me get my notes. I think that you got to get the potential sellers. Thank you. We don't need that anymore. I lost their attention span as long as they're looking at this chart. Come pay attention to me. I think that it's extremely important that you point out to people that you want to get a listing from the truth. And the truth is, this is the best time ever, ever, ever in history to sell property. You are at the peak price. You've never been close to this. You ask anybody who's lived in a property in this area for any length of time, what did they ever think they'd get to this price when they bought it? Their short answer is, oh no, right? So you're at a peak price. Don't get greedy. There's an old adage on Wall Street, bulls are people who are optimistic about the market and the economy. Bears are people who are pessimistic about the market and the economy. An old adage on Wall Street is bulls can make money, bears can make money, pigs get slaughtered. Don't be piggish. Don't be piggish. You may not get the last penny out of the damn property, but I'm telling you, you're probably pretty close, and I'll tell you why I think so. In a recession, and I think we will have a recession, mild, sometime probably late this year, early next. The world economy is slowing, just is. China's slowing. Brexit is going to slow England, presumably. Germany is slowing. Mexico and Greece and Spain are basket cases. Most of our trading partners are struggling. China is struggling. Japan has been in a 25-year struggle. Most of our trading partners are struggling. We're about the only sweet spot on the globe right now. We're about it. So I think that you will have a recession, but a mild one and one that doesn't break the banks. The banks are healthy. In a recession, more money may flow to real estate because they're frustrated with the market. So that is not a bad thing for you. And a recession will bring down rates even more, if I'm right about that. Now, I thought we would have a recession earlier this year. I pushed it back in my judgment. And so it's kind of hard to, nobody rings a bell to tell you when the alarm goes off. But with all of our trading partners, et cetera, and now there's a counterpoint to that. You have an election year with an incumbent president. Usually in an election year with an incumbent president, that the president will stimulate the economy because they're running again. They're not running, they don't give a damn. But if you're running again, they'll try and stimulate so the economy has good window dressing for the election. But the thing is the Trump administration stimulated last year with the tax bills. So I don't know that they've got any more juice there. I don't know. I mean, it doesn't appear to me that they likely do. So I don't think you'll get that pop that you oftentimes would with an incumbent rerunning. I doubt it. We'll see. So in a recession, prices are likely to decline. Interest rates will decline too, but prices are likely to decline. You're at the peak price. If you're trying to get somebody to put their house on the market, and they want to, but they want to make a wise decision, help them to make it. It's economics, it's knowing the capital gains tax, but it's also reminding them that this is a price they never thought imaginable, and it may start slipping if I'm right that we have a recession, and I think I'm right. Does that make sense to you? Okay. So right now you're in a golden age for sellers. Robert, is that his name? No, the other guy. Robert, okay. Robert reminded me that when I've been here in the past, I said that the three things that are important in real estate are what? Three most important things. Okay, location, location, location. I think that's wrong. I think it's timing, timing, and timing. And here's why I say that. When real estate prices were going down in Los Angeles, they were going down all over the world and all over the country. Now the real estate prices are up in Los Angeles, they're up all over the world and all over the country. So timing is a factor. Anybody who's thinking of listing their home, I think their timing right now is pretty spot on. And don't blow it. Don't blow it and let it slip away. You're in a golden age. And I think you need to communicate that to your potential listers. And I would communicate it with real vigor. Go crazy on that. Okay, how else can you get listings? I've mentioned this here in the past, I'm pretty sure, I think so, but I think it bears mentioning again. I can tell you who definitely is going to list property. People who are dying or dead. Estates. If I were you, I would connect with clergy. When there's trouble in the home, the clergy knows first. Your rabbi, your minister, your priest. That's where you go when there's sadness in the home. That is where you go. I would be connected to psychologists and therapists, because if you don't have a clergy, that's who you're going to talk to. I would go to attorneys and I would go to accountants. That's who the state will talk to. But I think that if you offer your services in a meaningful and genuine and sympathetic and sensitive fashion, not that you're a predator, but if they have one of their flock is in trouble or has passed, you stand ready to help in a very sincere fashion. I think that you will probably connect on that. And it takes some effort to build those bridges, but those are people who can use your help and will welcome it. It's not predatory at all. It's helpful in their period of need. And you have a professional expertise that it can be very sincere and genuine. Yes, there's a built-in interest for you. Of course, that's almost always the case in any endeavor. But there's also a built-in interest for the family and for the person who referred you, whether it be a clergy or a therapist or whatever. Does that make any sense to you? I really think real estate agents totally miss that. And there's a lot of inventory out there because people die every day, or they're sick every day, or whatever the case may be. So I think it's really critical that you make some of those bonds whenever possible. Okay, I think I covered a reasonable amount of ground. Tell me what questions you may have or what issues may come up for each of you. Yes.
I just have a question. I heard the Fed is pumping a lot of money out. What does can they keep doing that?
Sure, that's what the Fed does.
No, but I mean, will they keep doing it?
Yeah, because the money, the old theory was when you pump out a lot of money, it's going to cause inflation, but it's not. So there's one theory, they're not pumping out enough. They need to produce more. Now, pumping out money isn't debt. That's just putting more money into circulation. So in the 2008 recession, which was the worst since the Great Depression, it was bad. I don't know how many of you know, but we were on the cusp of a depression. Warren Buffett said, when you go to cocktail parties with billionaires and they're worried about their money markets in the bank, you got a problem. He said he was scared, and Warren Buffett doesn't scare. It was bad. So Bernanke, who was the chairman of the Federal Reserve Board at that time, he is not flatteringly called by economists Helicopter Ben, because his PhD thesis was if we have another depression, when he was a student, we should fly helicopters over major cities and drop money. Because when you drop money, people have something to spend to buy. And that's pretty much what he did. He opened the spigot and saved us. And, a lot of people think that was a mistake, but the countries that didn't do that took much longer to recover, and they only recovered when they finally started to do it. Because money makes the world go round. You need money to get it moving again. I don't know. We've been pumping it out so as long as we've all been alive. Don't be crazy. Hang on. Our level of debt compared to our economy is, your entire life you've heard that. Oh, we have too much debt. Oh, we have too much debt. No, we don't. We're pretty prudent. Our level of debt relative to our gross domestic product is still pretty good shape. Yes. Right. Right. No, pay the man. Yeah. I mean, there's not much you can do about that. And they know it. I think that one of the things, I mean, it would be an amusement to point it out. I don't think it's going to persuade anyone, but thank God you had all those years at 1800. I mean, you know, you got a bargain for 1800 and now you're unhappy. So, I mean, but that, I don't know what else to do about it. You're going to have to pay them. Yes.
I don't know if it's a valid question, but I've always heard from people that people, they don't know when the depression or the recession is going to come. When people expect that it's not going to come. But, you know, if people are kind of relaxing or doing good, and this is when it hits. I don't know if this time is the same situation, similar, or what's your opinion?
You know, there's all kind of anecdotes about those kinds of things, but you're right. The reason that people think when things are really good is because people get sloppy, decadent, overspend, companies don't do a good job, overhire, et cetera, et cetera. We don't seem to have that. Technology has helped us a lot to keep better control of inventory and so on. Something for you to just know in general, all recessions and depressions are a product of too much inventory. You can't move it, so you got to put it on sale. But technology keeps that in check. For example, when you go to the supermarket at the checkout counter, you hear that beep, 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 right? Drives you nuts. What they're doing is they're saying if you bought a quart of milk, they're going to order one more quart of milk. In the old days, you had some 16-year-old clerk who said, I don't know, Harry, order 50 of them. What do I care? So now inventory control is much better. But that's not the end-all, be-all, because you had good inventory control in 08 also. But you did not have inventory control of housing. People were buying houses in the back hills of Tennessee that they have never been. I mean, it was ridiculous. It was ridiculous. Yes. Right. Yeah, yeah. Can I finish this though? Because I forgot one other thing. So one of the reasons a lot of people have thought we'd have a recession even before now is we've had such a long uninterrupted expansion that it's assumed we'll become decadent and sloppy. But so far we haven't. So far we haven't. So time doesn't cause recessions, decadence does. And it doesn't appear we're that decadent. Doesn't seem like it. And the banks are healthy. And in a capitalistic society, you need capital. The banks are the source of capital. So capital's available. Capital's available. Yes, in our business, in reference to your question, one of the things that we champion are certain kinds of annuities that can give you guaranteed lifetime incomes that go along with your Social Security, and you cannot outlive that income. And when you die, what you haven't used still goes to your estate. Unlike Social Security, when you die on Social Security, it's gone. If you die 1 day later or 1 million days later, it's still gone. But in certain annuities, you can get a guaranteed lifetime income in the neighborhood of 5 to 7%, and you cannot outlive it. Some of them also have an additional built-in without physical long-term care provision that is very attractive. And I'm going to, whenever we in our business speak publicly, we have to have record of attendees. So I'm going to give you all a card to fill out that you attended and so on. I'll need your name and phone number, whatever. But on it, you're going to have a place there that says you'd like an appointment to discuss some of these things, either for yourself or for your clients. And would be happy to accommodate that. I hope you all become clients of ours. If you check yes, we'll be in touch to schedule time. If you check no, we won't. We won't even like you. We'll hate you. But I hope you check yes. I mean, I think that, it'll help you in your retirement accounts, your SEP accounts, et cetera, et cetera. And it could be meaningful information for some of those clients like those that you're speaking of. Yes. Oh, yes, because most people, let's say they had $100,000 and $20,000 in capital gains. I'm making up numbers. So they'd have 80,000 invested. Even if they had all 100, they're not going to get what you can get out of the kind of products I'm talking about. And also certain bond mutual funds will offer 4 to 6%. Now there is some risk to principal there. The annuities, there's no risk to principal. So there are places where you can still very conservatively and even guaranteed get robust return. Now in today's market, 4 to 6, 4 to 7, that's robust. 30 years ago, 18% was robust. I remember in the, it's true, in the early 80s, I lost a client because she was only getting 17%. I mean, it's like, even then I thought, are you really? She was mad at us. Huh? Never got an apology because our thesis was interest rates will go down, which was correct. So to lock that in, and she was not happy. We actually lost a client over one of the best investments we ever made for somebody. So, you know, you can't please everybody. Certainly couldn't please her. I'll also tell you on interest rates, back in '84, I gave a talk to about 400 women bankers. And at that time, prime rate was about 14%. And our assumption, what I was saying in this talk, to about 400 women bankers who were told by their companies otherwise, that I thought by the year 2000, which was 20 years ago, that interest rates would be under 5. They were furious with me, furious. What I remember is they surrounded me afterwards, and they were all kind of unhappy, and we were migrating, and I realized we're going to the ladies' room. Let me out of this crowd. I've gotten no apologies from this group because I was right. Old people don't buy stuff. When you don't buy stuff, you're not going to have inflation. If you don't have inflation, you're not going to have high interest. It's just that simple. It's a boom, 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 knock down the pace. Old people don't buy stuff. When you don't buy stuff, you don't have inflation. You don't have inflation, you don't have high interest. Period. Okay? When the old people die off, you'll start getting a rally on interest rates. That's still a ways off. Okay? So it's one of the cycles. All right, any other questions? Because I see Neil getting answered. Are you getting answered? Okay. Any other questions? Questions? You now have everything. I give out the test, you're going to ace it? Huh? Is that the deal? Say it again? That'd be a good thing. Okay, I do need to have these back. If you check no, we'll never call you. If you check yes, we will. So it's entirely up to you. So do sort of pass these around. And I'll take the blank ones. Back. And then I'll stick around for a bit for if you have any questions individually. I appreciate it. It was fun. Thank you. All right. Thank you, Neil.
All right, Ray, thank you. By the way, do you still have your radio show?
No.
Still doing that?
No. I stopped doing that a little while ago because it was too much. Too much. Yeah. But I enjoyed doing it. I did a radio show for an hour every Sunday morning for a couple of years. And I did a lot of radio early on whenever talk radio was very new. At that time, I was in Arizona and no one else was doing financial talk radio. So I was a big resource, and you didn't have the internet and you didn't have any Google or any of that sort of thing. So it was great. But now it's almost all infomercial. It's not so great. So I stopped. But thank you all very, very much.
Well, very good. Thank you. Thank you. You know, I appreciate it, Ray. I really do. I took something out of this. I always take a lot of things. Actually, I took 3 pages of notes, but there was one thought. And I think that we have to be able to talk, because the truth is, a lot of our clients are quote unquote older. Baby boomers are a big part of what's going on. And a big reason for not moving is I have to pay capital gains. But I wrote this down here. The capital gains is trapping you in staying where you are, not where you don't want to be. I want to move on. I want to move to another city. I want to free up some capital to do something with my grandchildren. I want to go on a trip. I want to. And I think that, you know, we have some clients that have more than 1 or 2 pieces of property. They don't have to sell everything, but they could free up a property, free up some capital, and have a different life by freeing up some of the capital in the property. And I just love the word trapped. because none of us want to be trapped. I'm actually seeing some of you look at me like, it certainly struck me, because I could take something and say, well, wait a minute, okay, so let's say you make $1 million and you have to pay the government a couple $100,000. Don't get me wrong, I don't really want to do that, but if I could free up $800,000 to do something else for myself or my family, I think we have to say that or have that conversation with our clients. Does that make sense?
And by the way, if they're not open to that, stop talking to them, because they're going to die first. I mean, give it up. Seriously,
Well,
stop
that's
wasting your time.
Yeah,
If they're not open to it, it's over. So
because they won't sell.
It's a done deal.
They
It's a
won't
done
sell.
deal.
That's right. Yeah, make sure their kids, you leave lots of cards for the children. Anyway, Ray, thank you very much. Let's give him a big hand. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. All right, everybody, it's 5 after 1. Let's rock and roll. Let's finish up the day. Thank you all very much.
And I do need the cards.
Oh, we do need the cards. Yes,
Thank
yes,
you
yes.
so much.